Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2022. It is August the 4th. It is Thursday night. There is football on my television right now, and I'm here to talk to, of course, Alex Kozora, who is back out at Saint Vincent College in Latrobe to see practice number 8 there for the training camp. So with that, Alex, I hope you were able to dodge the raindrops there at the end. Happy Thursday. Happy football Thursday.
Happy football Thursday, Dave. Yep, all dry. Good to see some great friends and some Steelers Depot contributors. Tim Rice has been here since the start of camp. Melanie Friedlander flew into town today, so great to see Dr. Mel. She has a really good article on Steelers Depot outlining her observations from the day. Also, of course, want to thank our sponsor, Touring Plans and Len Testa. They've been a longtime sponsor of the Steelers Depot training camp coverage. Cannot thank those guys enough. If you're planning a trip to Disney, those are the people that you want to hit up and check out for customized touring plans for visiting Disney's best rides, honest restaurant reviews, how to save on Disney tickets, the best hotel rooms to ask for, and so much more. Go to touringplans.com. And we thank them again as the Steelers Depot training camp sponsor.
Wow, what a day, huh? Crazy. And I think we should start here before we get into the training camp stuff. We'll obviously talk a little bit more about it on the Friday morning Terrible Podcast. But Deontay Johnson is going to be is under contract now through the 2024 season. He agreed to a 2-year, $36.71 million extension, earlier in the day before practice started. The two sides reportedly worked last night being Wednesday night and Thursday morning, and that subsequently ended his hold in. And man, 2-year extension. I think, who was it? Mike Garafolo from NFL Network the day previously in kind of one of his updates had said, hey, I think this will get done before week 1. And I think you could see it being a shorter extension. He was right on both accounts there. So obviously the new money average, isn't, I mean, look, make no mistake about it. This is a good deal from the Steelers side of things. And we have talked a couple of times about the wielding of that franchise tag sword, if you will. It looks like Omar Khan took Deontay Johnson and his agent into his office and showed him that sword, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you probably know the details better than I do, and have written up some articles on it. I'm sure there's a forthcoming salary cap post, but it seems like it's a good deal for Pittsburgh. Obviously, it's a little less money overall in terms of the average yearly value in exchange for a shorter contract terms overall. But really happy to see that deal get done. Like I mentioned on the previous show, I was becoming kind of that gut instinct optimistic that the deal would occur. Did not expect one to happen this quickly, but that may be the general trend of Omar Khan. You get Minka done in June. You get Deontay Johnson and Chris Boswell done essentially the first week plus of training camp. So when Omar Khan wants something to happen, he gets the dang thing done.
Yeah, and it looks like $19 million for Deontay in 2022 total. It sounds like a $17.5 million signing bonus. I would think to equal 19, it'd be $1.5 million base salary. It's being reported as $27 million guaranteed in this thing. We'll have to see if that's full guarantee or injury guarantees. It sounds like $27 million might be the first 2-year, first 2 years, base salary and signing bonus guaranteed on this, but we'll have to wait for more details on that. We got a framework of maybe what the salary cap charge will be, but we'll have to wait for a few more details just to make sure there. Sounds like it's going to be around, I don't know, $7.6 million new cap charge based on the details out there. So he's out there. He practiced today, and I guess we'll get after it. We'll talk more about this deal in the Friday morning podcast as well, too. But a busy day there. And how about some housekeeping here? Mika Fitzpatrick off the NFI list. That was the other big story earlier in the day.
Right, and we got that sense before the team officially announced it when Fitzpatrick came down with his helmet on, went through individual. He did not participate in team, basically a half day for him, but obviously, cleared medically and very, very close to a full return. Deontay Johnson, obviously on field, full team workout. Not practicing today was Najee Harris with the foot, Miles Killebrew with the pec, Chase Claypool shoulder, Pat Frymuth hamstring, Marcus Allen hamstring, Carl Joseph personal, Kim Hayward, TJ Watt getting veteran off days. Larry Ogunjobi seemed to get kind of an off day as well. Levi Wallace was limited, did not work full, worked an individual session. And then in terms of guys coming back, Chuck Wilmar-Corfor back full after missing yesterday. So that is good news. Injuries and things that happened during practice. Chaz Green, Mateo Durant were carted off towards the end. That's probably heat related. It was like 90% humidity today in Latrobe. So a really, really muggy day. Cam Sutton with a lower body injury. I think that happened in 7 shots. He tried to kind of play through it. His body language was poor. Left halfway through. Monte Casey got his left hand or wrist jammed. He got that taped up. He finished practice. That should be okay. Mason Cole got a little gimpy after one play and 7 shots, but Cam Sutton's kind of the big name to watch.
Yeah, the old lower body injury. And I know there's a report out there about it being a knee. We'll have to wait and see, as far as that goes. And hopefully it doesn't keep him out too terribly long there. But that obviously coming out of Thursday, I think the biggest concern, Mike Tomlin, didn't really give much of an update on the other guys. It's pretty much just status quo there. So we'll have to see if any of those guys make it back for the Friday night lights practice there. So
I should mention just real quick, Tyson Oluwali was working up quite a sweat on the side, hitting the blocking dummy. So that's some maybe encouraging progress there. And Killebrew was more active in terms of doing some work on the side, arm circles and stretch lines. So that pec injury doesn't seem incredibly severe, missed some time, obviously, but I think he'll be back before camp ends.
Well, at least he hasn't been placed on IR yet. You would think if it was a serious pec injury, that would have happened by now, right?
Right. I'm very confident. You're doing arm circles with a pec injury. I think you're not dealing with something like a torn pec. So I maybe some sort of just more mild strain. I'll ask Dr. Mel tomorrow about that maybe, but I don't think it's incredibly serious.
All right. Anything else we got to cover before we get into the position groups here?
I think that's about everything. Just a quick note, they didn't finish practice on their normal schedule today. Storms came rolling in. They only did 1 play of the final team session before the horn sounded. There was some lightning off in the distance. So slightly shorter practice by 10 minutes or so today.
All right. Let's start with the quarterback position. I think you had an interesting tweet there right at the end of practice saying, in so many words, don't ask you to rank them, but you thought Kenny Pickett was, I guess, far away the best quarterback out there.
Well, I think it was his best practice that he's had, is the way I would kind of couch things. Today, yeah, what he did today. And again, I qualified that because I usually don't rank the quarterbacks in my head off the cuff. And once I knew if I said that Pickett had a great practice, they would ask, well, was he the best quarterback there? Or how would you define that? I don't know. I think I'd probably pick Pickett as the top quarterback today, but I haven't given it enough thought. But I just kind of care about what Pickett did to himself, to the man. And that throw in 7 shots to Cody White, a great throw, right corner, led him perfectly for a touchdown. Great timing, great placement, overall accuracy. There was a really impressive play later on. It was play action, a 10-yard curl to Anthony Miller, but he went through his progression, some play action, worked right to left, and found Miller open. So just looking at his progressions, his reads, overall taking care of the football. I know I've been maybe more critical of Kenny Pickett than most, but obviously when he has a great day, we'll talk about that. And today I thought he had a really good day.
All right. So his best of camp, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Kind of fill us in on what Mason and Mitch, the ups and downs they went through.
Yeah, both I think were fine overall. No turnovers, was kind of been more limited. Maybe no big explosive downfield plays either. The rotation was a little weird between, and I haven't tracked it to a T in terms of tallying it back up, but Rudolph would come in during team session for like a play, then he would come out and Pickett would come back in. So usually the rotations, you kind of have a rhythm to it, whether it's 4-4-4 or 2-2-2 or something like that. Not this weird come in for a play, come out for a play. I don't know if that's trying to simulate a backup quarterback coming off the bench, at a moment's notice, those kinds of things, or what. I'm sure there's an intention and a plan there, but the rotation was a little unusual today.
All right. Okay. Deontay was out there. Let's talk about the wide receivers now.
Sure. Deontay was out there. Looked good. I mean, one of the first reps that he had was 1v1, a great release to beat Akella Witherspoon and, caught a long pass again to Drill tailored for the offense, but still a good moment there for Deontay Johnson. Let's see here. Other receivers, Anthony Miller, he's the guy making a push. We've talked about him maybe more earlier in camp. He's kind of fighting Miles Boykin for a 6th spot if they do keep 6 receivers. I don't know exactly which way I would go. This thing's going to go down to the wire, I'm guessing, but I think Anthony Miller's trying to make a plausible case to try to make the team as that 6th wide receiver.
All right. And he's probably the most versatile between him and Miles Boykin, right?
Yeah, Boykin doesn't play slot. Well, in the sense of the receiver, but then there's the versatility of Boykin as a special teamer. He can probably do more there. Miller could do punts probably, but not in terms of coverage, jammer, gunner, other kind of things, L3, or he's probably more L1 on kickoffs and stuff like that. So he's less versatile there. So it's kind of pick your flavor.
Okay. Anything else to add about wide receivers before we move on to running backs? And one, Anthony McFarland seems to be heating it up.
Yeah, I saw Deontay in the slot a little bit today. Not that he'll play there full time, but just kind of the idea of mixing and matching different guys. The first rep that I saw in warmups had Pickens and Cody White on the outside and Deontay in the slot. Now, granted, of course, Chase Claypool's not practicing, and he saw a lot of time in the slot before his shoulder injury. Claypool is super close to a return. But moving to running backs, yeah, Anthony McFarland, this is a critical, make or break summer for him. Thought he had a really good practice catching the football. Had a great wheel route combat catch against Miles Jack. Had another rep against Devin Bush, making a diving catch deep down the left sideline. Showed his speed and some of the run sessions as well. Took a jet sweep to the right side and caught the corner. So a guy that needed some good days, and today had a good day.
All right, good deal. And he definitely needs a good camp and a good preseason for sure. After 2 very lackluster, seasons to start his career. Before Mateo Durant left, I thought you had something about good pass pro on Mateo Durant.
Yeah, there was one rep. I don't quite remember, when that was. Where is that in my notes here? Let's see. I don't know if I have it in my notes, what I typed up. I think I'll have to go back to some of my tweets on that kind of stuff. Maybe 7 shots. I saw that. But yeah, you've seen a little bit with him. Again, more perimeter runs, more tosses. You kind of get the flash and burst of speed. His hands maybe haven't been quite as consistent as I thought they were coming out of Duke. But, he's kind of battling. I think Jalen Warren had a tougher day, had a fumble, a drop. Had one or two decent runs overall. But Warren, Eben and Flo, I'm not concerned about it too terribly much. It's all about how you bounce back, but I thought Jalen Warren was a bit down today.
We'll get a good look at these guys in the preseason there. Master Teague getting into the lines and all.
Yeah, he was in there yesterday. It used to be when they would sign a guy, they would take like a day or two, and they really wouldn't work. And that no more. You're in right away. You're going to get the opportunities, and they just kind of had that shift there, which is fine. He's a big guy, obviously. He's finishing all of his runs. Each run goes to the end zone. McFarland had a run today, and Teague sprints down with him. So I think he's trying to show coaches, I'm finishing everything, finish the drill, that kind of thing. There's so many little coaching points like that. Terrell Austin, for example, every time a football's on the ground after any completion, if someone doesn't pick up the football defensively, he's yelling at those guys, hey, pick up that football. So those little small things that people may not notice can really be important to coaches, and finishing the drill is always an important thing to coaches.
What was the best runner today? McFarland?
I'll have to trying to think about that. I mean, the live session, they were in pads today, but you only really have like 2 true live sessions in terms of the 7 shots and then the actual run session. I don't know if there was one that stood out there. McFarland having that jet run to the right side, that was a non-tackling session, but it still felt like he ran away from Delonte Scott even touching his jersey. And so to see that burst of speed was good. So that might be my choice.
Okay, tight ends.
I have some notes on tight ends today. I
All
typically
right.
come in here empty-handed for you. Jay Sternberger had a good day. Had a touchdown in 7 shots. It was kind of a blown coverage. He was wide open, but still, got in the end zone. That's always a good thing. And then some good catches in some of the 1v1 stuff. And again, I understand those are very much favored to the offense, but even a combat catch that he made against Robert Spillane, kind of spinning and twisting and finding the football to catch that in a really 50-50 situation, that was good. So I thought he made some plays overall and certainly needs to make more of them going forward. And Kevin Rader was a guy that whenever he first came out at a Youngstown State, had a lot of drop issues, really didn't have good hands. His hands have improved, I think, by a fair margin, really, catching the ball above his head, outside his frame. Had a good catch yesterday in that 2-minute drill, had 1 catch a day, and some of the kind of 3-on-3 distribution, release, pattern matching kind of stuff there. And so
is that the one Tim Rice has a shot of up over the top of Lyndon Stevens?
I haven't even seen Tim's shot. If you can send it to me, that probably is it, because I don't think he had too many catches today. It was not in team. Is the photo you're referencing kind of in a not team session?
It's hard to tell because it's more focused on the catch. Let me DM it to you real quick here.
Okay,
so you can see
but
it there.
Yeah, it's probably it. Let me see. You just sent that to me. Yes, that is it. Yes.
Okay, so that's if people want to know what we're talking about, it's actually the cover photo of the Thursday picks that Tim Rice. So you should be able to find it easy on SteelersDepot.com. All right, that's good. It's good to get some of these things, these pictures painted around sometimes, and that's exactly that. That does look over his head there. So you're saying his hands, his hands have improved then.
I would say so. And again, sometimes, 1 or 2 drops can kind of cloud judgment, but I think there was one year, maybe his first or second season, where he, I think tied for the camp lead in drops or was right up there. And he hasn't had a ton of targets this year, but the last 2 practices, I think he made some good catches.
Okay. Offensive line.
What do I have here on the offensive line?
We're gonna be hawming around, about offensive line until we get some game tape on these guys.
Right, for sure. Let's see. Trent Scott. I still want to figure out how he got those first team reps. Not a good practice today overall for him. A core 4 was back, and so that's fine. I think Haig generally ran ahead of Trent Scott, but it just kind of feels like a Pat Meyer connection thing there. Let's see. Kendrick Green, still dealing with power, and that can be tough in O-line, D-line, but there was 1 rep where Khalil Davis just ran him straight back and clearly won that rep. And again, I get that's a tough situation to be in. Typically, the defensive linemen have the slight advantage, but Green's still trying to deal with bull rushes and power. It's probably always going to be an issue for him to some degree. It's just how much can you minimize and mitigate things with good hand use and technique and punch and winning early. That's going to be the key.
My terrible take today was about the depth of the tackle position, and specifically, get right past the starters of Dan Moore Jr. and Chukwuma Okorafor. Does it? And we talked about this the other day. Does it kind of feel like maybe there's that it might be an either or with Scott and Joe Haig? And then second part of the question is, does this team need to go out and find another backup tackle and one that can specifically play on the left side? Obviously, kind of theorized though that if, let's say, Dan Moore went down, Okorafor would probably switch over to the left tackle spot unless they had another tackle with more experience. Because when you go through the snaps that like Haig, Chaz Green, and Trent Scott have played at left tackle over the course of last 3 or 4 years, there's not many of them.
Right.
In total. So, sort of wrap all that up into an answer.
Yeah. And Haig versus Scott, there's a potential for that 9th offensive line spot to be open. And I think it's going up for grabs for John LeGlue, for Trent Scott, for somebody like that. I'd still like to think Haig is safe. Seeing the rotation yesterday with the core 4 out between Haig and Scott was a little surprising. I think Haig is the better player. Not that he's a great player, but the better player than Trent Scott. To the question of could this team add a tackle?
Could and should.
Yeah, they're probably 2 different things there. If they had a long-term injury to a starter, to a Dan Moore, or to an Okorafor, where let's say it's a month plus they'd be out for, that would require Haig to be that guy, I think he would try to explore that. Finding that guy is tough to do because most teams are all looking for tackles, and the teams that have them don't want to give those guys away. So that'll be tough. If there was an injury at the very least, and let's say Haig became the starter, I don't want Trent Scott or Chaz Green anywhere near the field. So that you would look for maybe a backup there behind, say, Haig and whoever the healthy tackle is. But I think Haig has the experience. It's hard to find guys that can play not only both tackle spots, but basically both guard spots as well, that have the experience, that can come in and step in, that are smart, that will prepare well. So in theory, it sounds good, and I get it. But I think in practice, trying to find that guy would be a lot tougher to do.
It would probably be one of those things towards the end of preseason that we've seen this team go out and make a deal or something like that.
Right, but I think if the group is healthy, then you're going to have more in a core four, and I still presume Joe Haig will be that number 3 swing tackle.
All right, that wraps up. Any huge takeaways from the offense in general today? They won 7 shots, right?
They did 4-3. I'll take that victory for sure. It's again some ball security issues in terms of the running backs taking care of the football. Benny Snell had a late fumble. Jalen Warren had a fumble and a drop. I thought overall there really weren't any hang your hat on kind of plays in terms of the full team. 7 shots. There were some good plays. Pickens with a touchdown. That throw to Pickett to Cody White was really excellent. I think each side had their wins today.
Okay, defensive side of football. Cameron Hayward obviously not in there. TJ Watt, both concussed birth certificates on this Thursday. What stuck out on the defensive line?
Yeah, they might be getting the Ben treatment because I think they were half day yesterday and then off day today. So that's the new Bens, I guess. In terms of what stuck out today, the Marvin Leal just showing quickness, and I was watching him come off the field after one, rotation and put new guys in, subbing people. And obviously we know he gained weight, but he's definitely a bigger looking guy than what he was at A&M. But the fact he's kept, from what I can tell so far, that explosive first step, the hand use, that was my big concern. You put 20 pounds on a guy, how's he going to move? Is he going to move like he moved at 280? And from what I can tell, he's still moving really well. And so that's encouraging. I wrote an article today talking about these decisions in the D-line room are not any easier 1 week into this thing. At this point, I don't think he cut any of the top 7. And frankly, they could be 8 deep with Carlos Davis. Even Henry Mondeau at least has NFL experience and versatility. So you have theoretically 9 guys who could be on a 53-man roster in your room right now. I don't know how you get that down to 6 unless something else happens with an injury. I know Oluwali has to now kind of prove his health, but I think he will come back in training camp sometime soon. So assuming he stays healthy for at least the start of the season, I think you have to keep 7.
Okay, interesting. All right, outside linebacker.
Let's see, outside linebacker, not an incredible amount of information to know today. Outside Smith pretty active in run session. Definitely gives Dan Moore a lot of battles. That inside spin, which has always been Highsmith's kind of calling card, seems to be even more effective this year because I know Dan Moore knows it's coming half the time, but Highsmith still is able to get the job done. So again, if Highsmith can kind of just, for some of these young guys, it's about focusing your pass rush. For Isaiah Lattimore, it's about focusing your pass rush plan on power moves. Say that 3 times fast with Highsmith. He's got so many tools in the tool belt, kind of honing in on, say, 3 general moves, a rip move to the outside, kind of speed rush, inside spin, and a bull. That's kind of the foundation of your pass rush plan. But definitely the inside spin is the most effective spin of anybody on this team, including TJ Watt. And I see that win time and time again.
He kind of dabbled with that kind of the ghost jab there a little bit last year too, didn't he?
Yeah, he even his rookie year, he showed some of that. And that can kind of be that outside speed rip move. You can kind of play a little bit where you're going to either go long arm or show rip or show goes where you fake the long arm and then just kind of really dip and bend the corner. He's able to do that. So, again, the camp maybe not quite as set the world on fire as it was last year. Maybe that's a bit of a product of expectations where you kind of, know that, Highsmith's less of a surprise when he makes plays this year. But overall, a good camp for Alex Highsmith.
Well, you remember we got into that. Wasn't it the first game against Detroit last year? I think it was. And
okay. That was against Dallas, the Hall of Fame game.
No. Which game was Detroit?
It was one of them. I don't know which one. Second or third.
Okay. I thought that was the game because I don't think, did Highsmith play much against Dallas? I'm trying to
probably not.
Remember. Maybe that's why I'm thinking Dallas, but or thinking Detroit. he really showed a lot of nice things in that Detroit game early on, setting the edge and some push pull. Remember him tossing the tackle or tight end aside in that game.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's when I think that we at least saw initially last year in the preseason that, okay, he's making moves in the right direction. And then he ended up, making kind of the jump that we were hoping he would make. And then now obviously we'd like to see him make the next jump and, get a lot of pressure and or hit that double-digit sack number.
All I remember from that Lions game is Melvin Ingram toying with Sewell. I remember that. I don't remember Highsmith too well, but I take your word for it there. I mean, Highsmith had the groin injury early in the year. I think that was part of that slow start. Really turned it on late. Had 4 sacks over his last 4 games and certainly became a presence, I think, once he got fully healthy. So, yeah, he could be in that 6 to 8, and obviously he wants to hit 10 sacks this year, and that might be pushing it a little bit, but you have a good game, get 2 or 3 sacks in the game, at one point, that can get you there pretty quickly.
I think it was Watt and Highsmith in that same game against the Raiders, wasn't it? With the groin.
I know they missed the Bengals game together, maybe the Raiders game too. It was early in the year. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that was the game that they both got injured in.
Okay.
Against the Raiders there. Okay. Inside linebacker. Austin was on the radio saying Robert Spillane, making a serious push to be that other guy.
I mean, he's been rotating in first team the entire camp. So, I mean, that kind of all, tracks. Even at times you'll see Devin Bush and Robert Spillane on the field. I think I mentioned that yesterday. I mean, obviously Miles Jack's going to be a starter for this team and probably play more snaps than either of those guys. But Spillane's job in terms of being safe is extremely safe. Like he's basically, a lock to make this team. And so will they try to, the question is, will they have a rotation or will they stick with 2 guys? Will they continue to maybe have Spillane in 3-4 Okie fronts and have Bush in sub package or some other variation? I mean, Spillane was in dime packages last year, which was a bad idea, but they tried it. That's kind of the interesting question. Will they stick with 2 or would they go with a 3-man rotation of some sort once the season begins?
It goes without saying, it's a Captain Obvious statement that here we are 8 practices into camp and we're talking about Spillane pushing Bush for his spot, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of that's just Spillane, earning the opportunity, obviously, and even rotating with Jack sometimes. So it's not always about Spillane replacing Bush, but certainly you'd like to maybe have a stronger summer for Devin Bush. I thought Bush did well in run sessions today, from what I could tell. In some of the 1v1 drills, I get it's such a tough environment for a linebacker to be in, but Bush never makes any sort of play. I think in coverage, he's still struggling to show some of the instincts and finding the football and driving on the football, things like that. I know TJ Watt had a lot of praise for Devin Bush, and obviously he's going to know it better than I do. There can be little, minute detail things that maybe Bush is doing better than a year ago. Him being healthy, obviously a factor there, but you're still looking for more, I think, from Devin Bush.
All right, cornerback, and going to be interesting to see what happens if Cameron Sutton, here's to hoping he don't miss a lot of time, but even if he misses a couple practices here.
Yeah, again, for what it's worth, from what I could kind of gauge, I know Sutton looked like he got dinged early in 7 shots. Then he went through the individual session, and there was a play where he got burned by Cody White. And I sat there and went, Cam Sutton does not get burned by Cody White. And his body language was really bad. I almost tweeted something out, but I was hesitant to say about an injury and kind of speculate on that stuff. But it totally makes sense there. So for whatever it's worth, Sutton continued to practice after, I think, tweaking that knee or lower body or whatever he's dealing with. I don't know. I guess that's a little encouraging news there. But that aside, with Levi Wallace being out again, James Pierre getting a lot of first team reps opposite of Akella Witherspoon. I thought Pierre had a really good day overall, multiple breakups. Like Pierre is such an up and down guy. When he's on, he's on. And when he's off, he's off. And so you get what game was that last year? The Broncos game?
Wasn't it one against the Bengals too, up over the top?
Bengals. It was Bengals game. Yeah. Yeah. So again, today he was on. Hopefully,
keep Butler saying you got dadgummit.
You got to know the situation. Right.
There's some things that stick in your head and will forever. That will be one of it. One of them.
Definitely. But I thought Pierre was really good today. Carlins Patel, again, I mentioned yesterday, getting a lot of work, second team slot corner. I think he did well in some of the one-on-one stuff, and then was pretty active in run session as well. So talk about guys that are getting expanded opportunities. Carlins Patel, one of those guys. Chris Steele, very grabby. He's got some I think, ball skills, ability to find the football, make plays in the football, but very technically unsound. And he grabs the second he gets into trouble. A lot of penalties on him today. Lyndon Stevens, pretty stiff hip kind of guy with that vertical speed. That's a bad combination. So Lyndon Stevens very much looks like a back end of the roster type of guy.
And I think talking about Sutton, I thought I saw Dr. Mel tweet something out about her looking at maybe a footage that Tim Rice had, and at least from what she saw, she didn't think it was anything ligament. But of course, we don't, were they looking at the right play or what have you? So just got to keep your fingers crossed. Do you think it was a knee or no?
Whenever I wrote my report before I even saw Tomlin's comment, I just called it lower body. It felt like it was a leg, knee, something like that, but I didn't really know for sure. So, I mean, that all tracks. It's definitely something with his leg, but I really couldn't tell you more specifically.
Maybe it's just a sprain or something. Just keep your fingers crossed there. Okay, safety. I know probably not a lot there, but have at it.
Again, line's getting kind of thin. KZ had that wrist issue, but he practiced full, which is good because they're kind of running short on safeties. I mean, they should get guys back. Minka should be full very soon. I imagine Carl Joseph probably comes back Monday, if I had to guess, after the off day. So they'll get healthy pretty quickly. Donovan Steiner did well run session. Either he or Justin Lane forced a fumble on Jalen Warren today. I couldn't tell which was which, but they're both in on the tackle. So Steiner, kind of my camp sleeper. I don't think he's lived up to the hype that I anointed to him. He's been fine, but not really a guy that's making a lot of buzz overall, although it can be tough for safeties to sometimes, pop up in notes because they're always so far away from the football. But Donovan Steiner in my notes a little bit today.
Even with those guys like Cam and Watt being out, who was the better side all the way around today? Drills, team, 7 shots. Which side was the better side?
It was pretty even. If I had to guess, I would say the defense. Slightly. I know they lost 7 shots, but it was close 4-3. Pierre had multiple breakups. They forced 2 fumbles. I would give the slight edge to the defense. Now,
was Trubisky in the final? Was it the final team portion, the one where Trubisky went 0-4 or whatnot?
The literal final one was just one play. Then the Storms came in, but the one before that, let me see here. If I scroll back up, so the 4th team session, it was a Snell carry for 3, and then Snell for 2. Next one was Trubisky booting and then throwing for Deontay, and Pierre broke that up. I think Trubisky had a completion to Warren there. I think that tweet was about 7-on-7s, wasn't it?
Okay, maybe that was it.
Yeah, I don't chart the 7-on. I mean, it's kind of in the background. I watch O-line, D-line when they're in pads, so I wasn't watching the 7-on-7. I think that's what it was in reference to.
All right, how about an overreaction for today?
Oh, I have one for you, and people are not going to like this one, and I'm not going to like this one. And I haven't even.
That's why we do this.
All right, if you want, okay, this is going to be a true...
I want the God honest overreaction of the day.
You can't handle the truth, Dave.
I can handle the truth.
All right, here's one.
Who called the code red, Alex?
I only know the you can't handle the truth line, and that's it. So everything else is over my head. I was just kind of bluffing there and hoping I could kind of work through it. Here's one for you, and this is truly like Yinzer overreaction way too early. But James Daniels has not looked good when I've watched James Daniels. O-line, D-line. He had a couple wins today, but a couple of bad losses, I think, against Leal. And I don't know. I'm hoping Daniels looks better than what he's looked. I'll put it that way.
I'm going to have to edit this one out.
I know. And I don't mean to say like he's bad or like
that was the Alex Kozora call shot during the offseason too. Him and Gunnar Olszewski. Those were the 2 Alex Kozora. Watch out. These guys could be Steelers here. It just that's a generalization. Give me a little more depth to why him.
I mean, just in pass pro and some of the O-line, D-line, he just lost a lot of reps. And I understand, you hear some people like Jeff Schwartz talk about, well, defensive linemen win most of those reps. It's split pretty evenly. I mean, I could literally go back through and chart it. I would say the win rate for each side is about 50%, truthfully. So I think Daniels is probably far under that 70 or that 50%. I mean, in team, I haven't really been able to study him too terribly much, but I haven't seen a lot stick out either. Maybe not sticking to blocks and things like that. So just being able to stay square and stay engaged and, loses early in reps sometimes to guys who have speed like a DeMarvin Leal, dealing with power and bull rush issues with a Chris Wormley. It's just things that have kind of stacked up over since Monday, since they put the pads on, that doesn't give me a great feeling. Again, it's a long ways to go, and I think he's still a good player. And there's an acclimation process to a new team. It's the first new team he's been on, obviously, since being drafted. So all those caveats. But if you want like the truly overreaction one, that's a thought that I've had. And it kind of fits it well.
I mean, I don't like it, but I like it because you're
indulging your exercise.
Right.
Yeah.
You're playing the game. Now, right. You know what's going to happen. James Daniel is going to go on to have a Pro Bowl season, and people are going to say, "You remember when Alex said?" And they'll screw it all up. They say, "You remember when Alex said he didn't think James Daniels will make the team?"
That's fine. I'll be happy to be wrong if he has a Pro Bowl season.
Right. And look, people, this is just an exercise. It's just give me something, over the top, good or bad, every day. It's just changing it up for the giving the offensive star that, just some of the other stuff there.
Right.
So,
but whenever I was watching after O-line D-line concluded, I went, that's going to be, Dave's going to ask me about overreaction. I'm going to have to give that answer, and people are not going to like it, but there you go.
All right. Anything else for us here? Time any punts or anything?
No punts today. They were doing other special team stuff. They were doing the jugs machine on punts, and so nothing there. Maybe they'll do that tomorrow. Friday Night Lights tomorrow, so that'll be exciting. Right. So obviously we won't have a podcast after that because it'll be super late. The report will come out, 1 a.m. or whatever time that is, and then practice Saturday. So they'll be in pads tomorrow. They should be at least, and then probably padless practice on Saturday, off day Sunday, and then Monday, and then there's a game not too long from now either.
Let's see. Friday Night Lights. We'll have we'll have Dr. Mel. We'll have, I think Tim will be out there, right? And I think, and I had breakfast this morning in Vegas with David O, and he left about noon to fly back to Pittsburgh. And I think he's going to be at Friday Night Lights as well, too. So you guys ought to have it surrounded out there.
Yeah, and I got my friends from New York who always come into town, so it's great to see them. It's been a while. Met some new friends that follow the site with Larry and his son David, so appreciate sitting with them in practice. I'm sure I'll see them tomorrow. And everyone that came up, Mike Adesso came up and said hi to me today, so appreciate that. So the support's been really, really good, really thankful for that. It's probably not as deserved as people think that it is, but I appreciate that people are coming to the site.
And you ought to be about worn out right now, and tomorrow's a halfway point. So I know you're tired. It's been a busy day. So let's wrap this up here. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Like what we do, want to donate, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, ad-free version, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upright navigational bar, and follow the directions that way as well, too. So no special edition of the Terrible Podcast Friday night. We'll be back on Saturday night to kind of give you and we do this every year, kind of a 2-night or 2 practice wrap up there. And until Saturday night, and we will be back Friday morning with a regular version of the Terrible Podcast as well, too. So as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, this special edition of the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.